Value chain goldmines, lucrative business niches from some heavy industrial operations, Part 1. Welcome to a game-changing guide for entrepreneurs hungry to break free from cliched ideas and spark real innovation in today's crowded market. In this video, we'll also make a powerful case for investors, regulators, and policymakers to dismantle opaque, monolithic industrial models, and instead unlock high-impact investment opportunities at every link of the value chain. You'll see how this approach drives on-demand production, spreads wealth throughout communities, prevents factory shutdowns, and fuels the creation of thousands of new jobs. 1.0 Introduction. A value chain is the full sequence of activities that takes a product from raw material to the end user, adding value at each stage. Here is a simple breakdown of activities that are involved in the value chain of an industrial operation. 1. Input and procurement. Sourcing raw materials, for example, minerals, crude oil, agricultural inputs, and bringing them into the operation. 2. Processing and manufacturing. Converting those inputs into intermediate or finished goods, for example, refining, formulating, blending. 3. Packaging and storage. Preparing the product for transport and sale, for example, bagging, bottling, warehousing. 4. Distribution and logistics. Moving products to markets or customers via trucking, shipping, pipelines, etc. 5. Marketing and sales. Positioning the product, finding customers for business-to-business, B2B, and business-to-customer, B2C, operations, and negotiating contracts or retail placement. 6. After-sales service. Support, maintenance, training, or recycling services that keep customers happy and generate business. 1.1 Heavy industries are sectors that involve the production of heavy goods, machinery, and equipment, often requiring significant capital investment, infrastructure, and labor. These are seen in the examples of the heavy industries, whose value chains will be considered as follows. 1. Ammonia-based fertilizers. 2. Petroleum fractions from crude oil refining. 3. Industrial chemicals from hydrocarbon reforming. 4. Cement. 5. Table sugar. 6. Table salt. 7. Petroleum and 8. Natural gas. 1.2 Why value chains matter. The YouTube video titled, From Molecules to Millions, The Chemistry, Process Flows and ROI of Industries and Their Utilized Raw Materials, Part 1, is the prerequisite for this video. This is because the video with the quoted title gave very high amounts of capital expenditures, CAPEX, for their investment. It was shown that the cost for a medium investment in these industries, when arranged in order of increasing CAPEX, are hydrocarbon reforming a table sugar, cement, natural gas, fertilizer, crude oil production, table salt, a crude oil distillation, with the actual amounts of $35 million, $82.5 million, $135 million, $150 million, $155 million, $185 million, $200 million, and $2.5 billion respectively. The amount of money for each process is enormous. So, there is a need to create opportunities for more investors to be identified in the process, such as aiding the investment processes as follows. 1. Reducing the high capex barrier. This involves collaborative financing through joint ventures between SMEs and larger firms, sharing capex burden. 2. Concentration of risk. A single entity bears the full funding burden, and there are identified delays to break even if any one stage underperforms. 3. Financing challenges. Limited access to collateralized loans for startups and high interest rates on large project finance. 4. Phased scaling. Starting with a value chain could aid in building capex resources to scale up to own a complete production system. 5. Creating opportunities for multiple stakeholders. This could aid in providing several business niches and service contracts that create direct and indirect jobs at each stage of the business. 6. Local value capture. Host communities' participation in business is ensured, and this often reduces cohesion between investors and the members of their host communities, as they are given opportunities to participate in the business. So, the 6 points here show that value chains aren't just production maps. They're blueprints for shared investment, shared reward, and widespread job creation. 1.3 Objective. In this presentation, we will explore the value chains in cement, crude oil refining, hydrocarbon reforming, table salt, table sugar, fertilizer, crude oil, and natural gas producing industries. Average capex required for investment in each chain will be presented, and possible startup processes of investment will also be discussed. The presentation will be covered by the outline presented here. 2.0 Cement production. 2.1 Value chains in cement production. 3.0 Table salt production. 3.1 Value chains in table salt production. 4.0 Table sugar production. 4.1 Value chains in table sugar production. 5.0 Production of ammonia-based fertilizer. 5.1 Value chains in ammonia-based fertilizer production. 6.0 Crude oil or petroleum production. 6.1 Value chains in crude oil or petroleum production. 7.0 Production of natural gas. 7.1 Value chains in pipeline natural gas production. 8.0 Crude oil refinery operations. 9.0 Hydrocarbon reforming operations. 9.1 Value chains in hydrocarbon reforming. Conclusion and future work. 2.0 Cement production. From an industrial chemistry perspective, cement is a finely ground, inorganic powder that, when mixed with water, forms a paste that binds aggregates, such as sand, gravel, or crushed stone, together to form concrete. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PDF, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 8 as follows. 1. Raw materials extraction. 2. Crushing and grinding. 3. Mixing and blending. 4. Preheating and calcination. 5. Clinker formation. 6. Cooling and storage. 7. Final grinding. 8. Packaging and distribution. This informs that the value chain in cement production will be built across the 8 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. By unbundling these 8 stages, entrepreneurs can plug into the cement ecosystem at the scale they can afford, share infrastructure burdens, and build profitable, capital-efficient ventures with clear exit or scaling pathways. 2.1 Value chains in cement production. 1. Raw materials extraction. Business: quarry and sell crushed limestone/marl/clay for cement feed or construction aggregates. Processes and operations: geological survey and test drilling, drilling and blasting, excavation and hauling to primary crusher, stockpiling and quality sampling, equipment and materials, drill rig with compressor, explosives and accessories, hydraulic excavators, 2 to 3 cubic meters buckets, 600 TPH jaw crusher, 2 by 30 T-tipper trucks, quality lab kit, XRF portable, CAPEX, site prep, permits and survey, $300 K, $500 K, crusher and haulage fleet, $1 M, 1.5 M, stockpile infrastructure, bund walls, conveyors, $200 K, $300 K, total $1.50 M, 2.3 M, revenue and ROI 1 million ton per annum, at $8 per ton, $8 million per year. Gross margin 25%, net $2 M. ROI 25-35% per annum, P.A. Payback 3-4 years. 2. Crushing and grinding, raw meal production. Business: crush and mill raw materials into fine, raw meal for cement kilns. Processes and operations: secondary crushing, cone/roll crushers. Drying, hot gas ring dryer. Raw meal grinding, VRM or ball mill. Airslide conveyors to silos. Equipment and materials: 800 TPH cone crusher plus feeders. Hot gas ring dryer, 20 TPH. Vertical roller mill, 150 TPH, or 2 by 30 TPH ball mills. Dust collector and bag filters. Control system, PLC plus SCADA. CAPEX: crushers and dryer, $1.20 M, 1.8 M. Mills and filters, $2 M, 3.0 M. Conveyors and silos, $500 K, $800 K. Total, $3.70 M, 5.6 M. Revenue and ROI: sale of 1 metric ton raw meal at $12 per ton, $12 million per years. Gross margin 20%, net $2.4 M. ROI 15-25% PA. Payback 4-6 years. 3. Mixing and blending. Business: supply homogenized raw meal blends or specialty cement additive mixes. Processes and operations: wayfeeder batching of raw ingredients, limestone, clay, slag, fly ash. Blending bed or silo homogenization, live bottom silos. Sampling and QC for target chemistry. Equipment and materials: multi-bin way feeders, 4 to 6 bins. Live bottom blending silos, 2 by 2000 T capacity. Screw conveyors and rotary valves. QC lab, XRF, moisture analyzer. CAPEX. Feeders and conveyors, $300 K, $500K. Silos and structural steel, $500 K, $700K. Lab setup, $100 K, $200K. Total, $900 K, 1.4 M. Revenue and ROI. 1 metric ton blended at $2 per ton fee, $2 million per year. Gross margin 30%, net $600K. ROI 20–30% PA. Payback 3–5 years. 4. Preheating and calcination. Business. Operate a precalciner/preheater unit to sell partially calcined feed to clinkerizers. Processes and operations. Preheater tower for stage cyclone. Precalciner burner for 30–40% calcination. Heat recovery to dryers/grinders. Equipment and materials. For stage cyclone preheater tower. Precalciner burner and ducting. ID/FD fans and ESPs. Structural steel and refractory lining. CAPEX. Preheater tower and burner, $7 M, 10 M. Fans, ducts and ESP, $2 M, 3 M. Civil and steel works, $1 M, 1.5 M. Total, $10 M, 14.5 M. Revenue and ROI. 1 metric ton precalcined at $15 per ton, $15 million per year. Gross margin 18%, net $2.7 M. ROI 12–18% PA. Payback 6–8 YRS. 5. Clinker formation, kiln. Business. Run a rotary kiln to sell clinker to grinding plants. Processes and operations. Rotary kiln, 04 M x 60 M, at 1–450 degrees C. Kiln drives, seals and refractory sections. Clinker cooler, grate or planetary. Equipment and materials. Rotary kiln shell and drive. Preheater and calciner integration. Clinker cooler and transfer conveyor. Fuel system, coal/petcoke handling. CAPEX. Kiln and burner, $20 M, 30 M. Cooler and conveyors, $5 M, 7 M. Civil, refractory and spares, $5 M, 8 M. Total, $30 M, 45 M. Revenue and ROI. 1 metric ton clinker at $30 per ton, $30 million per year. Gross margin 15%, net $4.5 M. ROI 10–15% PA. Payback 7–10 years. 6. Cooling and storage. Business. Provide clinker cooling, storage silos, and just-in-time dispatch. Processes and operations. Clinker cooler, if standalone, or storage buffer. High-capacity silos, 2 x 10,000 T. Reclaimer and stacker bridges. Equipment and materials. Grate or planetary cooler retrofit. Cylindrical steel silos plus roof and aeration. Reclaimer conveyor and stacker boom. CAPEX. Cooler plus drive, $3 M, 4 M. Silos and reclaimer, $4 M, 6 M. Total, $7 M, 10 M. Revenue and ROI. Handling fee at $3 per ton for 1 metric ton, $3 million per year. Gross margin 25%, net $750K. ROI 8-12% PA. Payback 8-10 YRS. 7. Final grinding and packaging. Business. Grind clinker with gypsum/additives into cement, bag and load for sale. Processes and operations. Finish grinding, VRM or ball mill plus classifier. Cement blending, additives, gypsum, slag. Bagging line, 25 to 50 kilograms, palletizing and wrapping. Bulk loading, tanker/truck. Equipment and materials. Vertical roller mill, 100 TPH or 2 by 30 TPH ball mills. High efficiency classifiers and dust collectors. 2 by 20 bag/min bagging machines plus palletizer. Silos, 2 by 5000 T, and bulk loading spout. Low-CAPEX. Mills and classifier, $5 M, 7 M. Bagging and conveyors, $1 M, 1.5 M. Silos and civil, $1 M, 2 M. Total, $7 M, 10.5 M. Revenue and ROI. 1 metric ton cement at $45 per ton, $45 million per year. Gross margin 20%, net $9 M. ROI 20-25% PA. Payback 4-6 years. 3.0 Table salt production. Table salt, also known as sodium chloride, is a crystalline mineral composed of sodium Na and chlorine Cl ions. Its chemical formula is NaCl. Table salt is commonly used as a seasoning and preservative in food, and it's essential for various bodily functions, such as maintaining fluid balance and nerve function. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PDF, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 5 stages as follows. 1. Sources and purification of raw materials. 2. Concentration. 3. Solid-liquid separation. 4. Additives and packaging. 5. Distribution. This informs us that the value chain in table salt production will be built across the 5 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 3.1 Value chains in table salt production. 1. Sources and purification of raw materials. Produce crude salt, wet harvested or mine harvested, and deliver a washed, low impurity feed for downstream. Processes and operations include harvesting from solar ponds or saltwater wells, washing and settling to remove clays, insoluble, brine clarification via filtration or clarifiers. Equipment and materials include pond excavation and liners, if solar, or brine well pumps, settling tanks, sand media filters, slurry pumps, valves, piping, portable assay kit, conductivity, insoluble solids. CAPEX, medium for capacity investment of 50,000 ton per annum. Pond/lease development and permits, $200,000. Pumps and filtration skids, $250,000. Civil works and utilities, $100,000. Total is almost equal to $550,000. Revenue and ROI. Sale of washed crude salt at $20 per ton times 50,000 T equals $1 million per year. Gross margin 15%, $150,000 net. ROI 25–30% PA. Payback 3–4 years. 2. Concentration. Evaporate and concentrate brine to a high salinity feedstock for crystallizers. Processes and operations. Solar evaporation, pond network, or mechanical, vacuum, evaporation. Heat recovery, if mechanical. Brine monitoring, TDS, temperature. Equipment and materials. Solar pond earthworks and berms or vacuum evaporator units. Circulation pumps, piping, flow meters. Control panel, TDS sensors, level switches. CAPEX, medium. Solar pond build and lining, $400,000. Pumps, piping and valves, $150,000. VacEvap system, optional $450,000. Total, solar plus mechanical fallback is almost equal to $1 million. Revenue and ROI. Service fee for 120,000 T brine at $5 per ton equals $600,000 per year. Gross margin 20%, $120,000 net. ROI 12–15% PA. Payback 6–8 years. 3. Solid liquid separation, crystallization. Crystallize and separate salt crystals from concentrated brine. Processes and operations. Vacuum pan or forced circulation crystallizers. Centrifugation or decanting of mother liquor. Drying and screening of wet salt. Equipment and materials. Vacuum pan crystallizers, 50 TPH capacity. Basket centrifuges or horizontal decanters. Rotary dryer or fluidized bed. Screening and grading sieves. CAPEX, medium. Crystallizers and centrifuges, $800,000. Dryers and screens, $400,000. Installation and controls, $300,000. Total is almost equal to $1,500,000. Revenue and ROI. Sale of coarse salt at $35 per ton times 50,000 T equals $1,750,000/year. Gross margin 25%, $437,500 net. ROI 25–30% PA. Payback 4–5 years. 4. Additives and packaging. Blend in anti-caking/iodizing agents and pack finished edible salt for retail. Processes and operations. Iodization, spray or dry mix. Anti-caking dosing, silicates, stearates. Automated bagging, 25 kilograms or 50 kilograms, printing and palletizing. Equipment and materials. Precision weighbelt feeders, 3-bin. Mixers and dosing skids. Bagging machine, up to 30 bags/min, plus palletizer. Film or woven polypropylene bags, pallets, stretch wrap. CAPEX, medium. Dosing and mixing skids, $200,000. Bagging line and palletizer, $250,000. Packaging materials, initial stock $50,000. Total is almost equal to $500,000. Revenue and ROI. Packaged salt sales at $60 per ton times 50,000 ton equals $3,000,000/year. Gross margin 20%, $600,000 net. ROI 120% PA, payback 1 year. 5. Distribution. Warehouse, bulk truck delivery, or retail network for packaged salt. Processes and operations. Bulk storage, silos or warehouse racks. Fleet management, trucks, route planning. Order management and retail/wholesale coordination. Equipment and materials. Steel silos, 2 by 2,000 ton, or covered warehouse. 4 to 6 bulk salt trucks, 10 to 20 ton capacity. Forklifts, loading spouts, scales. TMS/ERP for orders and invoicing. CAPEX, medium. Silos/warehouse and racking, $100,000. Trucks and forklifts, $100,000. IT and office setup, $20,000. Total is almost equal to $220,000. Revenue and ROI. Distribution margin at $10/ton times 50,000 ton equals $500,000 per year. Gross margin 15%, $75,000 net. ROI 35–40% PA, payback 2–3 years. 4.0. Table sugar production. Table sugar, also known as sucrose, is a disaccharide carbohydrate composed of glucose and fructose molecules bonded together. Its chemical formula is C2H220. Table sugar is a white, crystalline solid commonly used as a sweetener in food and beverages. The process flow diagram of table sugar production is shown here and also described as follows. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 7 stages as follows. 1. Harvesting and preparation. 2. Juice extraction. 3. Juice clarification. 4. Evaporation. 5. Crystallization, raw sugar. 6. Packaging. 7. Distribution. This informs that the value chain in table sugar production will be built across the 7 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 4.1. Value chains in table sugar production. 1. Harvesting and preparation. Business, aggregate, wash and chip sugarcane for sale to extraction plants. Processes and operations. Cane reception, washing and debris removal. Chopping or shredding into billets. Equipment and materials. Cane receiving hopper and washer. Mechanical chipper or shredder. Feed conveyors, pumps. CAPEX, $300,000, $500,000. Revenue and ROI. Toll fee $10/ton times 500,000 ton cane equals $5 million per year. Gross margin 15%, net $750,000. ROI 25–30%, payback 3–4 YRS. 2. Juice extraction. Business, operate a cane diffuser/mill plant to sell raw juice. Processes and operations. Roller mills or diffuser units for fiber separation. Juice collection and screening. Equipment and materials. 2-stage roller mill or 6-cell diffuser. Juice screens and collection tanks. Pumps, piping, PLC control panel. CAPEX $1,000,000,000 Revenue and ROI. Juice, 10-degree bricks, 450,000 t/year, at $60 per ton equals $27 million per year. Gross margin 18%, net $4.9 million. ROI 20–25%, payback 4–5 years. 3. Juice clarification. Business: clarify raw juice into clean, sediment-free feed for evaporators. Processes and operations: liming and heating, sedimentation in clarifiers, filtration, vacuum or pressure. Equipment and materials: clarifier tanks, 2 to 3 cells, rotary vacuum filters or plate filters, steam coils, agitators, dosing skid, lime. CAPEX $500,000 $800,000. Revenue and ROI. Clarified juice, 440,000 tons/year, at $80 per ton equals $35.2 million per year. Gross margin 15%, net $5.3 million. ROI 18–22%, payback 4–6 years. 4. Evaporation. Business: concentrate clarified juice into thick syrup, 60-degree bricks. Processes and operations: multi-effect evaporation, 3 to 4 effects. Vapor recompression and heat recovery. Equipment and materials: 3-effect evaporator trains, heat exchangers, recompression fan, pumps, condensate tanks, instrumentation. CAPEX $1,800,000 to $2,500,000. Revenue and ROI. Syrup, 280,000 t/year, at $150 per ton equals $42 million per year. Gross margin 20%, net $8.4 million. ROI 20–25%, payback 4–5 years. 5. Crystallization, raw sugar. Business: run vacuum pans and centrifuges to produce raw sugar. Processes and operations: batch pan crystallization, centrifugal separation of crystals and molasses. Equipment and materials: 4 to 6 vacuum pans, 10 to 15 ton pan, basket centrifuges or horizontal decanters, steam heaters, molasses receivers. CAPEX $2,500,000 to $3,500,000. Revenue and ROI. Raw sugar, 50,000 tons/year, at $350 per ton equals $17.5 million per year. Gross margin 12%, net $2.1 million. ROI 12–15%, payback 6–8 years. 6. Packaging, refined sugar. Business: refine, blend and pack edible sugar for retail/wholesale. Processes and operations: carbonation or phosphatation refining, drying, screening, color polishing, bagging into 50 kilograms bags or retail packs. Equipment and materials: decolorization tanks, bone char or ion exchange. rotary dryers, screening machines, automatic bagging line plus palletizer. CAPEX $1,200,000 to $1,800,000. Revenue and ROI. Packaged sugar 50,000 t/year at $500 per ton equals $25 million per year. Gross margin 18%, net $4.5 million. ROI 25–30%, payback 3–4 years. 7. Distribution. Business, warehousing and last-mile delivery of packaged sugar. Processes and operations. Bulk storage, silos or rack warehousing. Fleet management and route optimization. Order processing and invoicing. Equipment and materials. Steel silos, 2x2000T, or racked warehouse. 4 to 6 delivery trucks, 15 to 20 ton. Forklifts, scales, basic TMS/ERP. CAPEX $300,000–500,000. Revenue and ROI. Distribution fee $15 per ton times 50,000 T equals $750,000 per year. Gross margin 20%, net $150,000. ROI 30–35%, payback 2–3 year. 5.0 Production of ammonia-based fertilizer. Fertilizers are agrochemicals that are used in modern agriculture to enhance crop production by improving soil fertility. Ammonia-based fertilizers are fertilizers that are produced from ammonia. The processes of producing ammonia-based fertilizers are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 9 stages as follows. 1. Feedstock preparation. 2. Water gas shift reactor, WGS. 3. Synthesis gas compressor. 4. Pressure swing adsorption, PSA, hydrogen purification. 5. Ammonia synthesis reactor. 6. Ammonia compressor/swatter. 7. Ammonia condenser/separator. 8. Transformation of produced ammonia into urea fertilizer. 9. Packaging, storage, and distribution. This informs us that the value chain in an ammonia-based fertilizer production will be built across the 9 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 5.1 Value chains in ammonia-based fertilizer production. 1. Feedstock preparation, gas sweetening and dehydration. Opportunity: build and operate a natural gas purification unit selling fuel gas to ammonia plants. Processes and operations. Amine scrubbing, H2S/CO2 removal. Molecular sieve dehydration, 1 ppm H2O. Equipment and materials. Amine contactor/regenerator columns. Heat exchangers, pumps, molecular sieve towers. CAPEX $8 million to $12 million. Revenue and ROI. Supply 200 kpa urea feed at 0.24 million British thermal units per kilogram urea times $12 per million British thermal units, $5.8 million per year. Net margin 15%, $0.86 million. ROI 7–10%, 10 to 12 years payback. 2. Water, gas shift reaction. Opportunity: Operate a WGS train to convert purified gas into CO-rich syngas. Processes and operations. HT shift 350 to 450 degrees Celsius plus LT shift 200 to 250 degrees Celsius. Interstage heat recovery. Equipment and materials. 2 to 3 shift reactors with Fe, Cr and Cu Zn catalysts. Heat exchangers, valves. CAPEX $15 million to $20 million. Revenue and ROI. Service fee $3 per ton, urea $0.6 million per year. Net $0.12 m ROI 1%. Niche, heavy integration needed. 3. Synthesis gas compression. Opportunity, provide multi-stage compression to 200 to 350 bar for the Haber-Bosch loop. Processes and operations. 3 to 5 stage reciprocating/centrifugal compression. Intercooling and pulsation control. Equipment and materials. Compressors, intercoolers, pulsation dampeners. CAPEX $10 million to $15 million. Revenue and ROI. $2 per ton, urea fee $0.4 million per year. Net $0.1 m ROI 1%. 4. PSA hydrogen purification. Opportunity, build PSA units to separate H2 for ammonia or sell to external markets. Processes and operations. Pretreatment, CO2 removal, drying. PSA cycles, adsorption/desorption. Equip and materials. 4 to 6 PSA vessels, compressors, filters. CAPEX $25 million to $30 million. Revenue and ROI. Sell 35 kPa H2 at $500 per ton, $17.5 million per year. Net $3.5 m ROI 12-15%. 5. Ammonia synthesis reactor, Haber-Bosch. Opportunity, operate an ammonia loop, selling NH3 to urea makers. Processes operations. 150 to 250 bar, 400 to 500 degrees Celsius synthesis. Multibed iron or ruthenium catalyst. Equipment and materials. High pressure reactor, recycle compressor, separator. The CAPEX $650 1/600/ton per annum NH3 113,000 ton per annum NH3 $73 million to $181 million. Assume $130 million. Revenue and ROI. 13,000 ton NH3 at $400 per ton, $45.2 million per year. Net $4.5 m ROI 3-4%. 6. Ammonia compression and refrigeration. Opportunity, provide liquefaction and cryostorage for NH3 logistics. Processes and operations. Gas cooling to -33 degrees Celsius under pressure. Cryogenic storage in tanks. Equipment and materials. Multi-stage cryocompressors, cold box. CAPEX $8 million to $12 million. Revenue and ROI. $50 per ton NH3 fee 113,000 ton per annum times $50 equals $5.65 million per year. Net $1.7 m ROI 15–20%. 7. Ammonia condenser and separator. Opportunity: supply condenser separator skids for NH3/H2 separation. Processes and operations: shell and tube condensers, knockout drums, separators. Equipment and materials: heat exchangers, separator vessels. CAPEX: $5 million to $8 million. Revenue and ROI: $10 per ton NH3 fee, 113,000 per annum times $10 equals $1.13 million per year. Net $0.34 m ROI for 5%. 8. Urea synthesis and granulation. Opportunity: react ammonia and carbon, 4, oxide to produce urea. Then prill or granulate into fertilizer. Processes and operations: high-pressure urea reactor and stripper. Concentration: prilling tower or granulator. Equipment and materials: urea converter, stripper, condensers, prilling column. The CAPEX: $200/ton per annum urea, 200,000 per annum, $40 million. Revenue and ROI: 200,000 ton urea at $350 per ton, $70 million per year. Net $8.4 m ROI 20–25%, 4 to 5 year payback. 9. Packaging, storage and distribution. Opportunity: bag 50 kilograms granules, warehouse and deliver to wholesalers/retailers. Processes and ops: automated bagging, 30 to 50 bags/min, palletizing. Warehousing and fleet logistics. Equipe y materials: bagging machines, conveyors, silos or racks. Trucks, 5 to 10 units, forklifts, TMS/ERP. CAPEX: $5 million to $8 million. Revenue and ROI: $20 per ton feed, 200,000 ton per annum times $20 equals $4 million per year. Net $0.8 m ROI 10–15%. 6.0. Crude oil or petroleum production. Petroleum, or crude oil, is a complex mixture of hydrocarbons and other organic compounds. It's a viscous, dark-colored liquid found beneath the Earth's surface, extracted through drilling. Crude oil is a fossil fuel used as a primary energy source and feedstock for producing various petroleum products. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 7 stages as follows. 1. Exploration by modern seismic application. 2. Drilling operations. 3. Crude oil production, well fluid transfer, 3-phase separation and crude stabilization. 4. Oil field production chemical management services. 5. Oil field laboratory service. 6. Consultancy services, environmental, calibration, waste management. 7. Storage and logistics services. This informs that the value chain in crude oil production will be built across the 7 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 6.1. Value chains in crude oil or petroleum production. 1. Exploration services, seismic survey. Business, Conduct 2D/3D seismic acquisition and processing for upstream clients. Processes and operations. Survey design and permitting. Land clearing, line cutting, source point preparation. Vibroseis/accelerated weight drop acquisition. Data QC on-site processing, stacking, migration, interpretation. Equipment and materials. For times Vibroseis trucks, $1 million per each. 3,000 geophone nodes and cables, $200,000. Recording units and GPS, $150,000. Processing workstation and software licenses, $250,000. Field support vehicles and fuel, $200,000. CAPEX. Equipment purchase, $6M. Site setup and camp, $500,000. Total is almost equal to $6.5 million. Revenue and ROI. Charge $20/line km for 2D 300 km per year, $6 million per year. Gross margin 25%, net $1.5M. ROI 20-25% PA, payback 4-5 years. 2. Drilling contracting. Business. Operate a medium-capacity onshore drilling rig for vertical/horizontal wells. Processes and operations. Rig mobilization and site preparation. Spud to TD, drilling, casing, cementing. Well logging, directional control, and well testing. Equipment and materials. Land rig, 500 horsepower, skid-mounted, $10 million. Mud pumps, top drive, drawworks. Drill collars, drill bits, casing and tubing inventory. Service trucks, mud logging, cementing units, $1 million. CAPEX. Rig and support fleet is almost equal to $11 million. Revenue and ROI. Day rate $50,000/day, 60 days per well for wells/year, $12 million per year. Gross margin 15%, net $1.8M. ROI 12-15% PA, payback 7-8 years. 3. Production facility services. Business. Provide turnkey 3-phase separation and stabilization packages for small fields. Processes and operations. Well fluid gathering, flow lines, metering. 3-phase separators, oil/gas/water. Crude stabilization, flash tanks, heat exchangers. Equipment and materials. Separator skids, 500 BBL/day capacity, $1 million. Pump jacks, for units at $300,000 each, $1.2 million. Flowline piping, valves and manifolds, $500,000. Control panels and instrumentation, $300,000. CAPEX. Total package is almost equal to $3 million. Revenue and ROI. Service fee $2/BBL stabilized 5,000 BBL/day times 350 days equals 1.75 M BBL, $3.5 million per year. Gross margin 25%, net $0.9 M. ROI 15-20% PA, payback 5 years. 4. production chemical management. Business, supply and manage scale, corrosion and emulsion control chemicals on-site. Processes and operations. Fluid sampling and analysis. Chemical selection and dosing program design. Metering pump installation and service. Monthly performance reviews and optimization. Equipment and materials. Chemical storage tanks and containment, $150,000. Metering skids and pumps, $100,000. Field test kits and QC reagents, $50,000. CAPEX. Setup is almost equal to $300,000. Revenue and ROI. $2M/year in chemical sales and service fees. Gross margin 30%, net $600K. ROI 200% in year 1. Payback less than 1 year. 5. Oilfield laboratory services. Business, operate on-site/off-site lab for fluid analysis, PVT studies and scale/corrosion testing. Processes and operations. Sample reception and preservation. API gravity, water cut, BS&W testing. PVT cell measurements, fluid compatibility tests. Reporting and data management. Equipment and materials. GCMS or API approved fluid analyzers, $300,000. PVT cells and high pressure presses, $200,000. Viscometers, titrators, microscopes, $100,000. Lab fit-out and safety systems, $200,000. The CAPEX total is almost equal to $800,000. Revenue and ROI. Testing fees $1M/year. Gross margin 40%, net $400K. ROI 25–30% PA. Payback 3–4 years. 6. Environmental and calibration consultancy. Business, provide EIA, equipment calibration, and waste management planning for oilfield operators. Processes and operations. Baseline environmental surveys and reporting. Calibration of flow meters, pressure gauges, analyzers. Waste audit, disposal plan design, regulatory liaison. Equipment and materials. Field calibration kits and standards, $30,000. Sampling gear, soil, water, air, $20,000. Office and reporting software, $50,000. The CAPEX setup is almost equal to $100,000. Revenue and ROI. Consultancy retainer $500K/year. Gross margin 50%, net $250K. ROI 250% in year 1. Payback less than 1 year. 7. Storage and logistics services. Business, build and operate tank farm plus trucking for crude offtake and product distribution. Processes and operations. Tank receipt, custody transfer metering. Heating, vapor recovery, bottom washing. Loading rack operations and tanker dispatch. Equipment and materials. 5x10,000 BBL storage tanks, $2 million. Pump skids and piping, $500,000. 4x tanker trucks, $400,000. Loading gantry, meters, safety systems, $300,000. The CAPEX total is almost equal to $3.2 million. Revenue and ROI. Storage and handling fee $1/BBL 1.75 MBBL/year $1.75 million per year. Trucking fee $1/BBL delivered $1.75 million per year. Combined gross margin 20%, net $0.7 M. ROI 15% PA, payback 7 years. 7.0 Production of natural gas. Natural gas is a flammable hydrocarbon gas mixture primarily composed of 70 to 90% methane, 0 to 20% ethane, propane, C3H8, butane, C4H, and other constituents like nitrogen gas, carbon, oxide, hydrogen sulfide, and water vapor. Its composition may vary depending on the source and processing methods. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 8 stages as follows. 1. Exploration by modern seismic application. 2. Drilling of a natural gas well. 3. Well fluid transfer to the 3-phase HP separator. 4. Dehydration, using triethylene glycol and molecular sieve and regeneration of drying agents. 5. Dew pointing using the Joule-Thomson unit and mechanical refrigeration system. 6. Chemical treatment for carbon, oxide and hydrogen sulfide removal. 7. Oil field laboratory service. 8. Laying of 15 kilometers pipeline transportation, with compressor and gathering system. 9. Consultancy services, environmental, calibration, waste manage. This informs that the value chains in pipeline natural gas production will be built across the 8 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 7.1 Value chains in pipeline natural gas production. 1. Seismic exploration services. Business, 2D/3D land seismic acquisition and data processing for gas field appraisal. Processes and operations. Survey design, permitting and line cutting. Vibroseus or weight drop source acquisition. On-site QC off-site processing, stacking, migration. Interpretation and prospect recommendation. Equipment and materials. For times Vibroseus trucks, $1M/each. 3,000 geophones, cables and recorders. GPS units, base stations and workstations. Processing software licenses. CAPEX, $6 to $7 million. Revenue and ROI. $20/line km times 300 kilometers per year equals $6 million per year. Net margin 25%, $1.5 million. ROI 20–25% PA, 4 to 5 years payback. 2. Drilling contracting. Business, onshore rig services for vertical/horizontal gas wells. Processes and operations. Rig mobilization, site prep and casing programs. Drilling to TD, well logging and testing. Directional drilling, if needed, and cementing. Equipment and materials. 1 500 horsepower land rig, $10 million. Mud pumps, top drive, drawworks. drill bit/collar inventory, casing and tubing, logging and cementing service units. CAPEX, $11 to $12 million. Revenue and ROI, $50,000 per day times 60 days per well times 3 wells/year equals $9 million per year. Net margin 15%, $1.35 million. ROI, 12–15% PA, 7 to 8 years payback. 3. Well fluid gathering and 3-phase separation. Business, design, install and operate HP separators to split gas/liquid/water. Processes and operations. Flowline manifold installation and metering. 3-phase separators, heater treaters. Water disposal tie-ins, gas export hookup. Equipment and materials. 500 to 2000 BBL/day separator skids. Heater treaters, control valves and gauges. Flow meters, slug catchers, piping. CAPEX, $3 to $4 million. Revenue and ROI, $2 per BBL treated times 5,000 BBL/day times 330 days equals $3.3 million per year. Net margin 25%, $0.83 million. ROI, 20–25% PA, 4 to 5 years payback. 4. Glycol and molecular sieve dehydration service. Business, remove water vapor to 1 parts per million by volume H2O via TEG contactors and molecular sieve beds. Processes and operations. TEG absorption and regeneration loop. Molecular sieve swing cycles for deep dehydration. Heat integration and condensate handling. Equipment and materials. TEG absorber/regenerator columns. Molecular sieve vessels, heaters and controls. Pumps, heat exchangers and piping. CAPEX, $3 to $5 million. Revenue and ROI, 5 cents per MSCF times 20 MMSCFD times 330 days equals $330,000 per year. Net margin 20%, $66,000. ROI 1–2% PA, 20 to 30 year payback. 5. Dew pointing, Joule Thompson and refrigeration. Business, lower gas dew point via JT expansion and mechanical refrigeration. Processes and operations. JT valve train for bulk cooling. Refrigeration loop skid for fine dew point control. Condensate separation and heat recovery. Equipment and materials. JT valves, heat exchangers and vessels. Refrigeration compressor, cold box and controls. Liquid knockout drums and pumps. CAPEX, $6 to $8 million. Revenue and ROI, 10 cents per MSCF times 20 MMSCFD times 330 days equals $660,000 per year. Net margin 25%, $165,000. ROI, 2–3% PA, 8 to 10 year payback. 6. Acid gas removal, CO2 and H2S, sweetening. Business, amine or physical solvent treating to spec CO2/H2S limits. Processes and operations. Amine contactor and regenerator cycle. Solvent reclaiming and waste management. Off-gas handling and heat integration. Equipment and materials. Contactor/regenerator columns, heaters. Amine storage and reclaim units. Pumps, piping, instrumentation. CAPEX, $3 to $5 million. Revenue and ROI. $0.20/1000 standard cubic feet times 20 million standard cubic feet per day times 330 days equals $1.32 million per year. Net margin 25%, $330,000. ROI 6–10% PA, 8 to 12 years payback. 7. Oilfield laboratory services. Business, sample analysis, PVT studies and on-site fluid characterization. Processes and operations. Sample prep, API gravity and BSNW tests. PVT cell experiments, emulsion studies. Data reporting and regulatory submissions. Equipment and materials. GC/MS or API fluid analyzers. PVT cells, viscometers, titrators. Microscopes, balances and safety gear. CAPEX, $700 K, $900 K. Revenue and ROI. Testing fees is almost equal to $1 M/year. Net margin 40%, $400,000. ROI 45–55% PA, 1.5 to 2 year payback. 8. Pipeline and compressor station construction. Business, lay 15 kilometers of 12 steel line plus a booster compressor station. Processes and operations. Trenching, ditching and pipe lowering. Welding, NDT, coating and backfill. Compressor tie-in, skid install and startup. Equipment and materials. 15 kilometers times 12x65 pipe and fittings. Welding machines, NDT gear, coating units. 5 to 8 megawatts compressor, driver and cooler skid. SCADA, cathodic protection and valves. CAPEX, $15 to $20 million. Revenue and ROI. 20 cents per thousand standard cubic feet times 20 million standard cubic feet per day times 330 days equals $1.32 million per year. Net margin 25%, $330,000. ROI 2–3% PA, 10 to 12 years payback. 9. Environmental and calibration consultancy. Business, EIAs, flow meter calibration, waste management planning. Processes and operations. Baseline surveys, impact analysis and permitting. Calibration of meters, gauges and analyzers. Waste audit, disposal plan design and compliance support. Equipment and materials. Calibration kits and certified standards. Sampling gear, air, water, soil. Office and GIS/reporting software. CAPEX, $100,000 to $150,000. Revenue and ROI. Retainers and project fees is almost equal to $500K/year. Net margin 50%, $250,000. ROI 200–250% PA, less than 1 year payback. 8.0 Crude oil refinery operations. A crude oil refinery involves the use of the distillation technique of separation to separate crude oil into different fractions such as gasoline, kerosene, diesel, naphtha, etc. based on variation in their boiling points. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 8 stages as follows. 1. Desalter. 2. Furnace, feed preheat, atmospheric distillation column and vacuum distillation column. 3. Reformer, catalytic reforming unit. 4. Catalytic cracker, fluid catalytic cracking, FCC. 5. Hydrotreating unit. 6. End product separation and storage. 7. Crude oil refining laboratory service. 8. Consultancy services, environmental, calibration, waste management. This informs us that the value chain in crude oil refining operations will be built across the 8 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 8.1. Value chains in crude oil refinery operations. 1. Desalter services. Business, supply, install and operate electrostatic desalter skids to remove salts and water. Processes and operations. Injection of wash water and emulsifiers. High voltage electrostatic separation of water/brine. Sludge handling and disposal. Equipment and materials. 50,000 BPD desalter skid with HV transformer and electrodes. Wash water injection pumps, control panels. Sludge collection tanks and coalescers. CAPEX, $3 to $5 million. Revenue and ROI. Tolling fee 20 cents per BBL 16.5 MBBL times 20 cents equals $3.3 million per year. Net margin 20%, $0.66 million. ROI 15–20% PA, 5 to 7 year payback. 2. Furnace and distillation package. Business. Provide combined feed furnace skids plus atmospheric and vacuum columns on a toll processing basis. Processes and operations. Crude preheat via fired heater and e-convection section. Atmospheric distillation to C5, kerosene, gas oil cuts. Vacuum distillation to vacuum gas oil, VGO, and resid. Equipment and materials. Fired heater, 50,000 BPD capacity with burners and radiant coils. 5 tray preheat exchangers, pump around loops. 40 x 60 foot ATM distillation column plus 16 x 40 vac column. Vacuum pumps, condensers, reflux drums. CAPEX, $20 to $30 million. Revenue and ROI. Distillation fee $1.50 per BBL 16.5 M times $1.50 equals $24.8 million per year. Net margin 18%, $4.46 million. ROI 15–20% PA, 5 to 7 year payback. 3. Catalytic reforming unit, CRU. Business, toll process VGO into high-octane reformate, benzene/toluene/xylenes feed. Processes and operations. Feed hydrotreater pretreatment, optional. Fixed bed catalytic reforming, point/CL on alumina, at 500 degrees C and 30 atm. Hydrogen recycle compression and heat recovery. Equipment and materials. 3 reactor train with feed effluent heat exchangers. high-pressure separator and hydrogen recycle compressor, sulfur guard and chloride dosing skids. CAPEX, $40 to $60 million. Revenue and ROI. Fee $2 per BBL 16.5 M times $2 equals $33.0 million per year. Net margin 15%, $4.95 million. ROI 10–15% PA, 6 to 8 years payback. 4. Fluid catalytic cracking (FCC) services. Business: provide FCC catalyst supply, unit operation and regeneration on contract. Processes and operations: catalytic cracking of VGO/resid to LPG, gasoline, and light cycles. Aerogenerator for spent catalyst. Fractionation of FCC gasoline and light ends. Equipment and materials: FCC riser reactor and regenerator vessels, 50K barrel per day basis. Slide valves, cyclones, air heater exchangers. Fresh catalyst inventory and spent catalyst handling. CAPEX, $50 to $70 million. Revenue and ROI. Service fee $3 per BBL 16.5 M times $3 equals $49.5 million per year. Net margin 12%, $5.94 million. ROI 10–12% PA, 8 to 10 year payback. 5. Hydrotreating unit. Business: supply/hydrotreat naphtha, diesel, or kerosene to remove sulfur, nitrogen under H2. Processes and operations: feed preheat and mixing with H2. Fixed bed reactors over sulfide NIMO/COMO catalysts at 300 to 400 degrees Celsius and 30 to 80 atm. Effluent separation, H2 recycle. Equipment and materials: two-stage reactors, feed/heater exchangers. High-pressure separator and hydrogen compressor. H2 purification skid, PSA or membrane. CAPEX, $25 to $35 million. Revenue and ROI. Tolling fee 50 cents per BBL 16.5 M times 50 cents equals $8.25 million per year. Net margin 20%, $1.65 million. ROI 8–12% PA, 7 to 9 year payback. 6. End product separation and storage. Business: operate tank farm and final fractionation/blending/dispatch terminals. Processes and operations: LPG, naphtha, kerosene, diesel and vac. Gas oil blending. Storage in pressurized bullets and atmospheric tanks. Loading racks for truck, rail, or pipeline dispatch. Equipment and materials: 5 by 10,000 BBL storage tanks plus 4 by 2,000 BBL bullets. Blending skids, flow meters, pumps and vapor recovery. Loading arms, safety systems and control panels. CAPEX, $10 to $15 million. Revenue and ROI. Storage/blending fee 30 cents per BBL 16.5 M times 30 cents equals $4.95 million per year. Net margin 25%, $1.24 million. ROI 10–15% PA, 6 to 8 year payback. 7. refining laboratory services. Business, on-site or off-site lab for crude and product quality assurance. Processes and operations. Crude API gravity, sulfur, TAN tests. Distillation cuts, cetane/octane rating, flash point. Metals, water and sediment analysis, BS&W. Equipment and materials. GCMS, ASTM distillation apparatus, viscometers. Flash point testers, sulfur analyzers, balances. Sample prep hood, fume hoods and safety gear. CAPEX, $1 to $1.2 million. Revenue and ROI. Testing fees $2M/year. Net margin 40%, $0.8 million. ROI 60–70% PA, 1.5-year payback. 8. Environmental and calibration consultancy. Business, provide EIAs, flow meter calibration, and waste management planning. Processes and operations. Baseline surveys, impact assessments, and permitting. Calibration of custody transfer meters, gauges, and analyzers. Waste audit, disposal plan design, and compliance. Equipment and materials. Calibration kits and certified standards. Sampling gear, air, water, soil, and GIS/reporting software. CAPEX, $100,000 to $150,000. Revenue and ROI. Retainers and project fees $600K/year. Net margin 50%, $300,000. ROI 200–300% PA, less than 1-year payback. 9.0 Hydrocarbon reforming operations. Hydrocarbon reforming in petrochemical production refers to a set of processes used to rearrange or alter the structure of hydrocarbons. It is widely used in refining and petrochemical manufacturing to convert lower-value hydrocarbons, like naphtha, into more valuable products, such as aromatics, olefins, or high-octane gasoline. The processes are as described in the process flow diagram, PFD, shown here, and stages of production are grouped into 6 stages as follows. 1. Preheater and reactor section. 2. Effluent cooler and high-pressure separator. 3. Hydrogen purifier and recycle compressor. 4. Reforming column, stabilizer. 5. Analytical laboratory service. 6. Consultancy services, environmental, calibration, waste management. This informs that the value chains in hydrocarbon reforming operations will be built across the 6 stages mentioned, as described in the subsequent section. 9.1 Value chains in hydrocarbon reforming. 1. Preheater and reactor section. Business, toll process naphtha feed through fired heater and fixed bed reformer reactors. Processes and operations. Crude/naphtha preheating in a fired heater, radiant plus convection sections. Catalytic reforming in a series of fixed bed reactors, platinum on aluminium oxide, 500 degrees Celsius, 20 to 30 bar. Interstage heat recovery. Key equipment and materials. Fired heater skid, 20,000 BPD capacity. 2 to 3 multitubular reformer reactor vessels plus catalyst charge. Feed/effluent exchangers, burners, Control panels. CAPEX, $8 to $12 million. Revenue and ROI. Toll fee $1.50/BBL times 6.6 MBBL/year equals $9.9 million per year. Net margin 20%, $2.0 million net. ROI 15–25% PA is almost equal to 5 years payback. 2. Effluent cooler and high pressure separator. Business: provide cooling and phase separation of reactor effluent. Processes and operations: effluent quench/cool via exchanger or direct water quench. High pressure two-phase separation. Flash knockout of light ends. Key equipment and materials: shell and tube cooler or quench skid. High pressure separator vessel, 150 degrees Celsius inlet, 30 bar. Control valves, level controllers, pump down skid. Estimated CAPEX, $3 to $5 million. Estimated revenue and ROI. Toll fee $0.30/BBL times 6.6 MBBL equals $2.0 million per year. Net margin 20%, $0.40 million. ROI 8–13% PA is almost equal to 8 to 12 years payback. 3. Hydrogen purifier and recycle compressor. Business: purify hydrogen, PSA or membrane, and compress it back to reactor pressure. Processes and operations: PSA swing cycle adsorption or membrane separation for H2 purity greater than 99.5%. Multi-stage compression with intercooling to 20 to 30 bar. Instrument air and purge systems. Key equipment and materials: PSA skids, 4 to 6 vessels, or membrane modules. Hydrogen recycle compressor, 5 to 8 megawatts, intercoolers. Filter/separator vessels, control skid. Estimated CAPEX, $10 to $15 million. Estimated revenue and ROI. Service fee $0.50/BBL times 6.6 MBBL equals $3.3 million per year. Net margin 20%, $0.66 million. ROI 4–7% PA is almost equal to 9 years payback. 4. Reforming column, stabilizer. Business: strip light ends from reactor bottoms to produce stabilized reformate. Processes and operations: feed preheat via exchanger. Fractionation in stabilizer column, tray or packed. Reflux pumping and heat integration. Key equipment and materials: 30-inch, 36-inch times 40-inch reformate stabilizer tower. Feed/overhead exchangers, reflux drum. Pumps, reboiler, controls. Estimated CAPEX, $3 to $5 million. Estimated revenue and ROI. Toll fee $0.25/barrel times 6.6 M barrel equals $1.65 million per year. Net margin 20%, $0.33 million. ROI 7 to 11% PA is almost equal to 9 to 12 years payback. 5. Analytical laboratory service. Business: on-site/off-site lab for QC of feed/intermediate/products. Processes and operations: sample prep, naphtha reformate, hydrogen, light ends. GCFID/MS for hydrocarbon speciation, Piona analysis. Sulfur, water, acidity, metal passivator testing. Key equipment and materials. GCMS or GCFID systems with autosampler. Sulfur analyzer, Carl Fisher titrator, viscometer. Fume hood, sample storage, consumables. Estimated CAPEX, $800,000 to $1.2 million. Estimated revenue and ROI. Testing fee $0.10/BBL times 6.6 MBBL equals $0.66 million per year. Net margin 40%, $0.26 million. ROI 20 to 30% PA is almost equal to 4 to 5 years payback. 6. Environmental, calibration and waste management consultancy. Business, EIAs, flow meter calibration, waste audit and disposal planning. Processes and operations. Baseline environmental surveys and impact assessment. Calibration of high-pressure flow meters, valves, analyzers. Waste stream audit, treatment proposals, regulatory liaison. Key equipment and materials. Calibration kits. Sampling gear for air, water, soil. GIS/reporting software, field laptops. Estimated CAPEX, $100,000 to $150,000. Estimated revenue and ROI. Retainer and project fees $500K/year. Net margin 50%, $0.25 million. ROI 150 to 50% PA, less than 1 year payback. Conclusion and future work. Today's takeaway is simple and powerful. You don't have to build the whole factory to build real value. Heavy industrial systems can be unbundled into clear value chain links, each one a viable business. That means entrepreneurs can enter at the level that matches their capital, skills, and access to resources, then scale step by step. Across the sectors we explored, agro/petrochemicals, cement, salt and sugar, petroleum, natural gas, refining and reforming, we repeatedly saw modular entry points with lower CAPEX, often thousands to low millions of USD, such as packaging, lab/QC services, maintenance, additives/blending, logistics, dehydration/sweetening, storage, and distribution. Attractive economics. Many links deliver 15 to 30% net margins with 3 to 6 year paybacks when well executed, while larger process units offer steadier 10 to 15% returns. Real impact, local value capture, more resilient supply chains, job creation across operators, technicians, drivers, and support roles, and less downtime than single, monolithic plants. De-risking via partnerships, tolling, JV models, and equipment as a service spread capital load and operational risk. Compliance as an advantage, getting permits, safety, and QA right, HSE, emissions, food grade, metering/calibration, becomes a competitive moat. Bottom line, there are level entry, high-impact paths into heavy industry. Start where you can win today, learn quickly, and build outward link by link. Our upcoming videos on this subject will continue to explore these opportunities and showcase them to our viewers, aiding informed investment decisions.